Welcome to Breast Intentions, the podcast where we take off the bra of expectations and dive into honest, empowering conversations. We're your hosts, Nadine and Cynthia, two Canadian girls who swapped snow boots for flip-flops in the Cayman Islands. This is your space to feel seen, supported, and a little less alone. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of champagne and get ready for your weekly handful of truth, wellness, and empowerment. Welcome back to Breast Intentions. Today's guest is Angela Johnson, CEO and co-founder of sanoLiving, a digital health platform tackling burnout and benefit costs by actually supporting midlife women through menopause. Her mission is personal and her results are powerful. Better health, better work, and real change in the workplace. A former IBM exec and health tech innovator, Angela is proving that when we take care of women, everyone benefits. This one is a must listen for anyone navigating midlife or leading through it.
So today on the episode, we have Angela Johnson, who is the CEO and co-founder of sanoLiving. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you and just learn everything about sanoLiving. So why don't we just jump right into it and get you to give us an introduction on how you started sanoLiving and what brought you to where you're at?
That's a great question. Every woman has a different journey of menopause and that midlife transition. And for me, it started in my mid-30s without knowing it. I had no clue. But I was going through profound night sweats where, I would lay down towels and I would use towels instead of sheets. Mm-hmm. And I would have two sets for one side of the bed and the other side of the bed. My husband had to move out. It just was so disruptive. And functioning like that was just brutal. I didn't have, hot flashes during the day, just these profound night sweats that were just unimaginable. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but, no doctor was really being, coming up with any solutions either. So eventually I found my way to a gynecologist for other reasons. And he said, and while we fix this, we'll get you fixed up on your menopausal symptoms. And I'm like, menopause? I'm in my mid-30s. What are you talking about? And so he did. He helped really, I felt like a rock star again. I just felt like myself and it was great. And then I had my career at IBM and I was feeling really good and was back at that. And then I went on to start a digital health company for healthcare navigation. I built that up and I sold it. And then I thought, you're menopausal for sure. You don't need this stuff anymore. So instead of telling my practitioner, I just quit cold drinking.
Quit the supplements and stuff you were doing.
Mistake. Yeah. So my mental health crashed. Now that could have been partly, I didn't know if I had a purpose anymore because I didn't have a company or a job, but I had tinnitus. I had joint pain where I was getting sodium hyaluronate and cortisol injections. I was, there was like a list of probably 12 things that were going on with me. And my husband, actually, he would walk the dog and listen to podcasts and he'd come back and say, I think you might want to see your gynecologist again. Mm-hmm. And so in his way, he was very much part of it. So when I got back to myself again, I was like, this is just so wrong. It lit a fire under me of how hard it is for women at this stage. And I just thought, maybe it's time to come out of quasi-retirement. It wasn't very long, and fix this and try to make it more accessible for women. So here we are.
With sanoLiving. So you went through menopause in your mid-30s?
I was going through perimenopause. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know when I actually hit menopause because when I went to see the gynecologist, it was about massive uterine fibroids. Massive. To the point where, and this is just another thing that women, we are plagued with all these conditions that, we really struggle with. So, my fibroids got so large that I looked like I was probably 4 months pregnant. But, looks is one thing, but the blood loss that I had was immense. And I was running on low, I mean, already I wasn't sleeping, but I was running on low energy because of it. And, my cycle would last for like months, it would never
Oh,
stop. And so, when I would tell my clinician about it, they would be like, well, and it wasn't, it didn't
Yeah.
feel urgent to them. And I was like, okay, so this isn't urgent. So then I guess I shouldn't treat it as urgent. And this is just one of those things that women have to deal with. And then eventually I got to the point where I just couldn't function. I couldn't even leave the house. So I did the research myself and found the gynecologist. And then when you find someone that is just so helpful when you're that desperate,
yeah.
you almost
You hold on
put
to
them up on a pedestal that they're like, oh my God, I can't imagine life without you. Like you're almost
Right.
like a god, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's a very special person, and I hold high regard to him, definitely still to this day, because I can't imagine where my life would be without him. So, and I think that that's really critical, that women find, practitioners that understand, listen, pay attention, and say, that might be common, but that doesn't mean it's normal. And
Right.
you don't have to suffer, right? And so there are things we can do to fix them. So I don't really know when I hit menopause, because
Okay.
I had a hysterectomy to address it. Because after he shrunk them, he put me in induced menopause. And they shrunk because they weren't being fed from my cycle. And, he said, we don't have to do a hysterectomy. I can do, and I'm like, no, I never want to be back here again. I'm never using it again. I don't want to just take it, so, I kept my ovaries, which, he helped me educate me on why that was important. And, again, a clinician that educates you, empowers you, and informs you to make good choices. That's the name of the game, right? Like that's what
Right.
every woman wants and needs.
Right. So he put you on HRT.
He did. Yeah.
And then at some point along the line, you ripped off the patch. Is that what you ripped off the Band-Aid? And the
Said,
flood.
I don't need it anymore. I was
Right.
uneducated. I was so uneducated. I didn't know that, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And, I hear it from women all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that, it's over. And I'm like, no, you're in postmenopause, and that's for life. And it comes
Yes.
with
Yes.
other health risks, other challenges. And, but for me, I'm now off of my HRT for other choices, but it was a gradual transition, and it was
Right.
managed by a clinician.
I
It
was
wasn't
just going to say the support.
Angela doing her own thing.
Yeah. So that's when sanoLiving was developed at that time. Can you explain, just for our listeners who aren't familiar with sanoLiving, what the actual platform is and what it entails and how it helps people?
Sure. So women come in and they start with an assessment that asks questions about their menstrual cycle, if they have one, when it stopped, if they don't have one, and just information, because that really helps determine where you are in your stage of menopause and the transition. And then they understand, it educates as long as they go when they're asking questions, so they become more informed and more knowledgeable. And then at the end, they basically have an assessment that tells them their menopausal symptom, the severity or the level of it, that it's interrupting their life. And it allows them to set goals. What are health goals they want to achieve? So they set 3 goals. And from there, they get this symptom relief guide. And at that point, they're given an option to continue on with a coach who is trained in menopause and trained in lifestyle interventions, is really there to help you with all that. And then you're paired with a clinician. And depending on your unique needs or whatnot, you're also sent for probably some blood work, not necessarily for your hormonal levels, but to confirm that there aren't any other underlying conditions that maybe need to be explored and understood. trying to understand, where you're at in your vitamin D levels, your lipid levels for cardiovascular disease risk, all these. It's a really comprehensive view of you, so that when you're meeting with your clinician, they've got all that information and can have a very holistic conversation, versus when you see your general practitioner, if you're fortunate to have one, it's kind of more discrete, reactive, one problem conversation.
Right. And I think one of the things that I do want to say as well, that this is within Canada, and your clinician or coach are within the jurisdiction that you live in as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So they have licenses to, the clinicians can prescribe in your province or territory that you live in. Okay. And that's critical. We're in English and in French, and we're in every province and territory. Yeah.
Okay. So anyone can go on if they are struggling with menopause or perimenopause or are just curious as well. They can go on to the platform and they will be able to be walked through. Do they need their doctor as well, like their GP, or is there a GP like that they're assigned to?
Well, so they get a nurse practitioner,
okay,
who can prescribe. There's also an option to include a naturopathic doctor if they like.
Nice.
What I find out there, and there's a lot of views that supplements are just no good and they don't help, and they may not help for hot flashes, but they do help for other things, and they certainly help for overall lifestyle and management of good well-being, right? Which is ultimately our goal that we're trying to get to. And women are interested in this, right? Functional medicine is something that is very common in Europe and other areas of the world, but in North America, we have a strong voice around, pharmaceutical is the way to go. We believe that women, they know their bodies, and if they're not present and they're not engaged in their care plan, then it isn't going to work no matter what one clinician's, strong voice says. It has to fit her and it has to fit her lifestyle.
Right. And she has to put in the work as well.
Yes, she needs to be invested and put in the work. That's so key.
Now, I'm just going to switch gears a little bit, because there was a white paper that you guys have put out, and it touches on how traditional healthcare systems fail women during midlife. So why do you think that menopause is just so misunderstood and so undersupported?
I think there's a few reasons. I think it comes down to, old patriarchal, misogynistic views that, that women's value is really about creation of life. And if you really also look at what's happening with women, our length of our life is extending, right? So back early 1900s, even 1920s, women didn't really live long past menopause, right? And so medicine never really put much of a focus on it. They put more of a focus on the gynecological of reproduction of obstetrics, right? So menopause really didn't get a lot of attention from that standpoint. As we're living longer and we're almost spending half of our life in a menopause stage, it's becoming more and more important. And women are, at their peak of their careers, are in this stage that can be extremely disruptive to their career aspirations, right? So I think it's getting more and more attention because women are finding their voice and they're saying, I'm not putting up with this. This isn't right. And we're starting to share, and women are great communicators, right? We love to share our own stories. Now, our mothers they didn't find their voice, but through empowerment of careers and finding, with money comes empowerment and comes strength. And so becoming more financially independent, we then find our inner voice and we find our inner strength, and then we share our stories and we say, this is what's going on with me. Oh, this is going on with me too.
Right. Yeah.
It builds the momentum, right? And so we start to see, what's great is, we've got movie stars and actresses and musicians and politicians that have a platform, and they're leveraging that platform, which is fantastic. Like, I think it's great, because the more women are aware of it, the better. What we need then is to make sure that they've got places to go where they get really good quality information, versus sometimes we can find some stuff that's misinforming out there on that as well.
And what is, in Cole's Notes version, the white paper that you guys published?
So when a woman comes into the platform, she does that initial assessment, and she's scoring her symptoms on how they're impacting her quality of life. If she works, what her impact on her work, impact on her relationships, which could be work or home, and her overall mental well-being. And then once she's in her treatment plan with us for a few months, then she reassesses again. And that gives us and her a reminder of how she felt before, and is this working or isn't it working? And if it needs to be tweaked, her treatment plan, then it is course corrected. But in majority of cases, she's feeling amazing. And you can see it. What we did was we took all the women that have been through the platform and that experience, and then reported on the findings of what they're reporting back. Ideally, what I would like to do is have an external party come in and report on it, but we just need some time to get that done. But we wanted to get the word out right away of how amazing people feel after they've been through it.
Right. What is their top comment?
I feel like myself again. I can't imagine life, living the way I lived before. It just, a lot of it is I found myself again.
You also mentioned that menopause care needs to be personalized and holistic, and that's probably the whole premise behind sanoLiving. What are the key pillars that you believe that makes it truly effective?
We have 4.
Okay.
So the first one is obviously expert clinician care. So having clinicians that are trained in this stage, but also more, that's why we use nurse practitioners, is they also take more of that whole health perspective. So to make sure that there aren't any other underlying conditions that could be going on. And the second would be coaching. So we use health coaches that focus on the lifestyle, because this is a time where your risk of chronic illness basically skyrockets. And I don't think women realize that. So heart disease, osteoporosis, mental illness, metabolic disorders, and genitourinary conditions. So, I think probably a lot of us have a mother or grandmother that struggles with this. I have one that, she's in a retirement home, not for any other reason, but because she needs assisted help to change her, right? Otherwise, she'd be completely independent. So it's managing, helping understand those things, and getting coaching to help with the lifestyle changes, which are really hard to do on our own, right? Like having a coach rah cheer you on and help you rethink strategies about how do I make that fit in my life, or how do I tweak my life to fit that in my life.
And even having somebody to talk to about it and just say, like, is everybody going through this? Am I alone in this? Or just having somebody kind of know what you're going through and be able to talk with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, the cognitive stuff too, helping you with understanding, reframing your mind about how you look at things, and helping you with that as well. So critical, because, our mind is a very powerful tool, and sometimes we need some help on how to rewire our thinking. And then in addition to that, there's education. So we have a virtual health assistant that you can phone and talk to and ask it questions, and we can give it out to the audience later, or you can put it in maybe when you publish. Yeah, but people can call it I use it all the time. If I've got a question, I will call it, and I'm driving or I'm walking the dog, or whatever, or I'm making dinner. I'll be talking and just asking it questions, and it's in natural language. So it takes all this clinical information, and then because it's got the tools of natural language AI, it can come as a natural conversation. So you feel like you're talking to a very informed woman. And you can ask it, I live in BC and I don't know whether I need a referral to get a mammogram, and when should I go get a mammogram, or when am I supposed to have a pap test again? And like questions like that, that it's specific to your province, and where you live and what the guidelines are.
That's so cool.
It'll just tell you, tell me about perimenopause, and and the difference between perimenopause and the thyroid problem. Just anything you want to ask it about life's midlife, you can ask it. So there's that. And then there's also libraries of videos and articles as well that you can read. So it's about empowerment through education, so that you're better equipped, that when you do have a conversation with your clinician or your coach, you can get into some conversations that maybe you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Okay. But when we become empowered, we're more invested in taking good care of ourselves, right? So
for sure.
That would be the third pillar. And the fourth pillar is, I go back to my days of my last company, which is healthcare navigation. So women's health can't be done entirely digitally. So there's referrals out to testing and imaging, but also specialist care if needed, because you may have an underlying condition that needs better management.
Right.
So we'll work with your family physician, if you have one, to help with that. And if you don't, then your coach will help navigate you somewhere where you can go get that done and be able to get the care you need.
This is great. I think one of the things that I loved the most from your white paper is the quote that menopause is not a condition to fix, but a life stage to support. And
totally true.
I think it's what everyone needs to hear, because I think there's still a big misconception from that respect around menopause.
Yeah, I get really concerned. Well, it's great we're talking about menopause, and it's getting attention. I get worried about the framing around it, and that we paint it with this brush that it's all doom and gloom, and this is just a horrible time in a woman's life, and she's just write her off kind of thing. And it's the exact opposite. This is a time where, as long as she gets the healthcare she needs, she can move mountains, right? Like she knows who she is. She has all this knowledge and experience and this inner strength and power. And at the same time, women tend to be the nurturers and we have a new group of young people coming into the world in the workforce, as an example, right? And they need coaching. They need mentoring. They need support. They need to learn from leaders. And that's what these women are, right? So as long as they're healthy and they're getting the care they need, they can do all these functions in life and really come out with amazing things. And so I want the narrative to be around, yes, it can be a challenging time, but it's the most powerful time in a woman's life. And let's just support her to give her the care she needs so that she can do all these incredible things. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to change the narrative to be about.
Right. Defining your strength. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. We're just going to switch over to the platform. So there's a couple of questions that just especially for people who are not familiar with sanoLiving, this platform is designed for individuals. So anyone in Canada any female in Canada can pop onto the website and join herself. But there's also a corporate side to this as well.
Yeah. So ultimately my vision is that women don't have to pay. Mm-hmm. My view is that this is healthcare, and women shouldn't have to pay to get proper healthcare. And so the only way I could see doing that in any timely fashion, because our government it's a mammoth and it's hard to move, and it would take my lifetime and maybe my daughter's lifetime. But faster way to get there is getting workplaces to recognize how valuable these women are in the workforce, so that they'll include it in workplace benefits. So just like you have employee assistance programs, or, you've got dental coverage, or you've got, prescriptions, having it included in workplace benefits so women don't have to pay out of pocket.
And also so women don't leave the workforce. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what we see is so many women aren't getting proper care, and they're taking a step back from their careers.
Yeah.
They're going part-time, or they're going into independent consulting, because at least they can, tweak their hours and fit it within, how their life is going at the time. But, that doesn't do women any good, nor does it do workplaces any good. So my vision is let's not make this another form of tampon tax. Let's make sure that women have access to this care, and they don't have to try to say, you know what, I only have so much money, and instead of putting it into me, I'm putting it into the kids going to hockey, or, maybe food on the table, or, paying some bills, right? Women will always prioritize the family over their own needs. Always. It's the way we are wired, and the way we are conditioned from childhood. So we need to make it accessible and affordable for all women, and that's really my vision. But yes, in the meantime, women can come if they have the means. They can use it. They can use their supplemental health benefits if they have a health spending account, and even if they don't have it included in their benefits, like today. Or they can use it as a tax receipt. But that's not my ultimate goal.
Right. And have you had a very good response from corporations?
I have. So Medavie Blue Cross, if you're fortunate to have it as an insurer, it's included in their benefits. And so a few employers are coming direct because their insurer doesn't offer it. So, it's early days on trying to make it happen, and it's an education process for them. But, I encourage you to, if you're listening, talk to your HR department about, can we have such a benefit now that they exist? And just to give women options.
Absolutely. So you have the education component, and then you also have like the AI component that you can call someone and ask the questions. And then you have the side of the coaching, and then meeting with the nurse practitioner. With the nurse practitioner or the coach, is that a 24/7 access, or?
No, so we try to be sensitive to our coaches and our clinicians' lives, and that they can actually have a life too. It's not urgent care, right? So we don't need to be 7/24. And I'm about, protecting our team and our people as well, and that they have a good quality of life, because happy employees are great, with our clients. So we don't do 7/24, but we try to be available, in hours that will fit within a woman's life as well, right? So that they're not having to take off maybe a lot of time off work or something. So.
And then is it video with the nurse practitioner or a coach?
Yeah, it's video. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Both the coach and with the clinician there. It's video. And that clinician could be the naturopathic doctor, or if they are also using a nurse practitioner and a naturopathic doctor. Some women have all three in their care.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the only other thing that I just wanted to say and note is, if anyone is familiar with Aura, so the Aura ring, but also Aura Health, I have one as well, which is amazing. And it's very, very helpful from a cycle standpoint. Understanding your body temperature, understanding when you're getting your period, understanding all of the different changes in your body. But you guys are named by Aura as the recommended Canadian provider.
We are the only one that Aura recommended for and named as sort of their recommended partner for, And
Very
then
neat.
if you are fortunate enough to have an Aura and use it, you can share your data with your coach and clinician. So it can be really helpful to say, hey, we're working on your sleep and we've got some sleep hygiene activities going. You can see how, with the data about when you actually did go to bed.
Right. Yes.
Right. And then you can see how long it took to fall asleep. And you can see, did you wake up a lot throughout the night? Are you going back to sleep if you do wake up? Right. You can see all of that data. So just as an example on sleep, right, it can be really helpful in those coaching conversations about lifestyle changes, but it also can be very helpful for a clinician to say, okay, we had you on, let's say, the drug Devago. It's a sleep aid. It helps with not falling asleep, but staying asleep. And it's non-addictive. It's a really, like, if you're having troubles, I encourage you to talk to your clinician or just, Google it. It's a really incredible new medication that's out there that I think a lot of women don't know about. But, you can then, so the clinician can say, but I see you're still waking up and this drug is supposed to, so that it's clearly not working.
Right.
Why isn't it working? Well, it turns out I'm having hot flashes and night sweats, right? And so the night sweat wakes you up. Well, it's not going to keep you asleep through a big night sweat, right? So now we're talking, the clinician's talking to you about, okay, let's address that because that wasn't a problem before. So, as we go through our menopause transition, our symptoms change over time. One thing can be a problem and then another one pops up, right? So I think it's great to have the ring and have the data and the information. So
I agree.
It just makes a more in-depth conversation.
If you don't
for
have
sure.
the Aura ring, how does sanoLiving get the data from everybody?
Yeah, so that's a challenge. There's, if you wear the watch, an Apple Watch, you can share that, or a Fitbit. You can also, there's a feature on those that you can share with someone the data. So, there's just, that's how you do it, right? Ideally, I'd like to get to the point where we could have a device that we, if women were wanting one, we could sort of say, we do have a discount with Aura that you get. But I know it's still cost prohibitive for some women, right?
Right.
It's a luxury item for some.
So then it would just be, I guess, talking with the nurse practitioner and getting
Talking
their
with them,
account of things.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move into the science behind some of this. And going back to the white paper, it outlines that there is a clear gap between research and real world application. How is sanoLiving helping to close that gap?
So when women come on board, they're asked if they want to share their data, anonymized data. So no one knows who you are, but it can go into a set of pool of data. And I believe that as women, relying on government or big pharma or, the massive engine that's out there, it's going to be a long time before our health needs get properly met. And I think that it's only going to come by women empowering themselves. And so if we are to take our data and to pool it together, that then, pharma and research could take it and really look at what's happening with women and address some of the challenges that we're having. It's only that way that we're going to see improvements. And because otherwise it's like solving a puzzle with your arms tied behind your back. If you don't
It's true. Yeah.
Right. So, it is anonymized. We put it in a data lake that's totally separate. So I think about like a lake in the mountains. It's off, secluded. It's not in our electronic medical record system at all. And all of that data that has any names or any information that says who you are, where you're at, or like your address, it does say, like what region you're in, because regionally it can impact, right? There's other things that can impact our
Yeah, right.
health.
Environmental for sure.
And so that's put in this big pool, but ultimately one day we hope we'll have enough volume that could help with research and whatnot. That's
Yeah.
one thing we're working
Very
on.
cool.
That's awesome.
So HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is a pretty hot topic right now. How do you support women making informed decisions about HRT and other treatments?
Yeah, it goes back to that education thing. So there's a lot of fear been put around HRT, but then there's also camps where they make it like it's the only answer to life, right? The truth
Right.
is, it's somewhere in the middle. So we really try to inform about when is the window that it's safe, because there is a window. There are also individuals that just can't take it because they may have an underlying medical condition, and that it is the way it is for any medication. And we also inform them about the difference between compounded. And so when sometimes we hear people that are really educated in this space and they're brilliant people, but they can talk so fast that it can be really confusing when they say all these terms. And there's so many terms that it can really just sound overwhelming. And then we're tied up on one thing they said that was, about 5 sentences ago. And then they've said 5 more sentences and we've totally missed what they said. I don't know. You know what I mean? But you're
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah.
And you just keep thinking about that one little thing and you miss everything that comes after. So one of the big ones we hear about is bioidentical is bad. Well, it's not the bioidentical and they don't like the term bioidentical, but they'll talk about that. But it's more the compounded part of it, because there are bioidentical hormones that are produced by like pharmaceutical, and you get the same, like it can be tested by Health Canada and it's got that, it's lots of standards. Whereas compounded bioidentical hormones are done in a pharmacist, where they are actually mixing and creating it. So Health Canada can't be in there standing over their shoulders as they are compounding the product, right? And so
Right.
it's stuff like this that we just have to make sure women understand, and take it slow and make sure that they, answer their questions, make sure they understand each morsel of data, of information you're saying, and then build on that versus, say all this in like, record speed time. And then you go, did you get that? I don't know if I got it. You said so much. I can't tell. Right. So it goes back to, again, the AI health assistant, Sano, to call it and ask it questions that it can be in your speed and you can get the answers to it. And you can just keep, building on the conversation. Talking to your coach, talking to your clinician about these things. And then once you are informed, you can make a really good decision about, is HRT right for me? And which version of it? Because there are so many different versions, right? Like, there's gels that are, a mix of serum, which is kind of like mocking the behavior of progesterone, and estrogen. So it has estrogen and this sort of mocked version of progesterone in it. And then there's just, you could take estrogen and progesterone, or you could be a woman that doesn't need progesterone, or, because you don't have a uterus, but maybe there's still some good things you could get from taking progesterone, even though you don't have a uterus and you don't need it. Like there's so much here that what's really important is that the clinicians and the coach and the healthcare team takes the time for her to understand why this is the prescription best for her versus that she might be have read something about, right? So it goes back to, women are really smart people. Let's just, empower them with good information to make those choices for them, because whatever somebody else says, it doesn't matter. If she's not going to, buy in and be part of it, then it's not going to work.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's true. And we know ourselves best. So we need to kind of reflect a bit and not just go, okay, well, the doctor said I need to take this, so I guess I'll take this. So it's good to look at all the different, all the different options out there and then make the decision. Let's
Totally.
move in a different direction now about impact, growth, and vision. What kinds of results or transformations have you seen with the women you work with?
I thought I was going to have to take a step back from my career,
Right.
and they're
Yeah.
not. Right? We had woman. She was on disability, and she's on antidepressants. And she said, I've never been a depressed person in my life, ever. Why would I be on antidepressants? Like, it doesn't
That's
make any
sad.
sense to me, right? And so
Yeah.
she'd been on them for, I think, a year and a half, been off work for 8 months, 9 months. And she just said, I feel worse because I've lost my connection to the world. My work, it gave me a sense of getting up in the morning and going to the office and seeing my colleagues and, helping my clients. And then I didn't have that anymore. And so I stay at home and I look at the walls, and my
Right.
doctor says, just give it time and go to counseling. And so she did, but then she made her way to us, and I'm not sure how she found us, but she got her clinician team and she did her blood work, and they recommended hormone therapy, and she was a candidate for it. And in the end, within 3 months, she was back at work and she felt amazing. And she said, I can't imagine that I lost a year and a half, but
Yeah.
so it's stories like that you go, yeah, this is so empowering.
Yeah.
This is
So you feel so good when you
amazing.
get up
Yeah.
in the morning and you get to do that.
What's the age range
Yeah,
of people
for sure.
that you guys see?
It's surprising. We have women in their 70s and we have women in their 20s.
Do you?
Yeah. So some women, they're induced into menopause for medical reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
So it can be that. And then we have women that are in their 70s still struggling with hot flashes.
Wow.
An example. So yeah, it's a wide range. Never too early, never
What's-
too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. What's next for Sano Living? Any exciting updates or developments you can share with us?
Well, we're looking at where we go outside of Canada next. So we are planning to expand internationally. We're just trying to figure out what that looks like right
Good.
now. We're
Good.
first.
Very
I'm
cool.
very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
We're first on the wait list.
Yeah. This needs to be, it needs to be everywhere. It really does. The amount of people, and we were talking about this earlier, that I've come into contact with that one can't find a doctor doesn't listen to them. They're on a very long waiting list. They want a different opinion, or the amount of people that just really, really need the help and they have no idea where to find it.
Yeah. And I think too, so many women don't, like I didn't, associate it with menopause, right? So
Yeah.
and so when we go to a clinician that isn't knowledgeable about it too, it can feel like you're dismissed or, like it's unheard or, like gaslit or what all, like there's a bunch of things that you can
Yeah.
feel when you walk out the door and you go, well, why did I bother with that conversation?
Yeah.
So I think this time of our lives, if you think about it, women, we have been taught that we're supposed to look glamorous and amazing. We're
All the time.
supposed to be the caretaker. So have a really nice home. It needs to be in pristine condition. Your children need to be cared for and, bake the cookies for, right? Make sure their homework's done. Take them to all their appointments. If they're sick, it's mom, right? Like mom's there for everything. And then at this point in our lives, we might have aging parents.
Yes.
And he probably does too. And so you probably are the one that handles that. So you've got all this going on. And now you're probably in the most demanding part of your career because we're superwoman, right? Like we got to do it all and do it all with grace. And look flawlessly about it and never complain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden we go, wow, I just can't keep this up anymore. Like, I'm exhausted, I'm burned out, I'm tired. Now I'm getting cranky and I'm getting moody, and I get curt with my kids, and so they don't realize that it maybe is this hormonal transition that's going on. They just go, oh, I can relate to how I'm feeling, which is burnt out and exhausted. So I think one of the things that I think we need to start thinking about is changing the conversation about, if you're feeling like this, you might want to come have a conversation with a clinician that's experienced, right?
Well, and we talked about that as well with Dr. Bella, with it being 130 some symptoms.
Yeah, it's a lot of symptoms.
Yeah, and just having a simple conversation with someone to give them all of those symptoms and tell them what it is that is going on, and then someone to help you piece it all together. Yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge is that so many clinicians they don't have the training, right? Even gynecologists, most don't have the training.
Or the time.
Or the time.
Yeah.
So, it's challenging because the research wasn't there, med school isn't there, right? Putting a lot of focus on it. We're just starting to see fellowships in this area coming from a lot of, more clinicians are going that route. But as a result, when women do show up in most clinics, they go, I have all this going on, and they're like, it's randomized. And then that's why you're on SSIRs for antidepressants, because that's what they go to. That's the go-to answer. And that's what's in their toolbox. That's what they know.
Yeah. I actually had one question. You were saying at the very beginning of the conversation that when a woman goes onto your platform and she fills out all of the questions in terms of like how she's feeling, do a lot of them realize afterwards that they were downplaying their feelings? Or it was, I'm okay, it's not that bad. And then they realize a couple months later, after they've had all of the support, holy cow, it actually was really, really bad. And I was downplaying it.
Definitely, because, and I think that's natural for women. Like,
yes.
Why would we ever get pregnant again and have another child if, we remember how bad things are?
Right.
So, right. So naturally we downplay how we're experiencing. Like if I ask my mother, how did she go through her transition? She's like, oh, I don't know. It wasn't that bad. Yes. Like it's true. We're wired to forget it. But when they go through, they actually sort of like they choose the symptoms. So it kind of like gives them an option. You don't have to answer every question. It's just, what symptoms are you experiencing? And then you delve into those symptoms, right? Is how it works. So the words we get is, I felt empowered, I felt heard, I felt validated. Those are the words we hear from women after they do the assessment, which is, that's the first step towards feeling good.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to some rapid fire, fun, and personal questions. All right, what's one wellness ritual you can't live without?
I make my bed. I know it seems silly, but every morning.
No, I get it.
It's not about tasks, because boy, women, we have a lot of tasks, but it sets peace in my world. It sets when I see my bed and all my pillows and it's nice and it's pretty, it just feels calming to me. And it sets the tone for my day that I'm defining my world that is calm and peaceful and orderly and not chaos. I don't know how
that. That's a great answer. Yeah. I relate. I used to not be a make my bed person. I was like, what's the difference? You get back in. Who cares? And then I read something somewhere and I was like, okay, I'll try it. And since then, every morning, make my bed. And it's put together. It's ready for the day. Now I am.
And it literally is the very first thing I do when I get up.
Same. Yeah. Okay, what's your go-to pick me up if you need a pick me up?
I listened to Helen Reddy, I Am Woman.
Ah, is
That's awesome.
So
that your karaoke song too?
no, but it is my workout song. Like if I've got a podcast list, or not a podcast, a Spotify list that I play when I work out, and it's on there, and I play it every time I work out. And if I'm, kind of in a funk, I'll play it. So I think it's the perfect song that embodies midlife women. If anybody, if you've not heard it, go find it on your play, wherever you get your music. It's an incredible song.
That's
It
awesome.
really is, yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice about health, what would it be?
Trust your instincts, and don't, if someone's giving you an answer that, you know, isn't resonating with you, push harder, like, refuse to accept it, and keep looking for someone that, will help you. Because I think about, the fibroids that I had and how long I lived like that,
Right.
or the night
Mm,
sweats and how long I lived with towels, and changing towels in the middle of the night. Like, that's nonsense. It's
Right.
absolute
yeah,
nonsense. I lived like that way too long. It's just,
yeah,
that's
I
not
did too.
acceptable.
It's
And having a clinician
yeah.
tell you that. So trust your instincts.
And finally, what's one thing you wish every woman knew about menopause?
That's a great question. Because there's so many answers to that. I think it would
You can give us more than one.
I think it would be that it's never too early and it's never too late. I
Good
hear so
answer.
many women say, I'm not there yet, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And I hear, oh, I'm past that. And I'm like, no, no, no. It is so important. This is such you you think about the major life events in a woman's life. Puberty is a big one.
hmm
And obviously having a baby is a big one.
hmm
But this is one that every woman will have, and it really impacts so much of her life, right? Like we
yeah,
talked about 100 and some odd symptoms, right? We have estrogen receptors everywhere in our bodies. And when you start to see that depletion or the sporadicness of it in perimenopause, it it can be so disruptive to your life. And so perimenopause, obviously it's a stage that's really critically important. But in postmenopause, that onset of chronic illness risk, women, big thunderstorm happening here.
Oh, is that what that is?
is that what it is? Oh, wow,
So,
very loud.
women, we may live longer than men, but we spend 25% of it in poor health. And that is because this time of this transition, it brings on this onset of chronic illness risk that is what drives that poor health. So
hmm
postmenopause is so critically important to get active and to stay active and to eat properly, and yes, take some vitamins and supplements because you may not be able to get it all in your diet. And,
Right.
overall just mental well-being. So important at this stage. And when I hear women say, "Oh, I'm too, I'm not there yet," or "Oh, I'm past that." Not true. Not true.
I actually
hmm
also had a conversation with someone recently where they had said to me, so they're right in the middle of menopause, and they had said, I'm just going to white knuckle it and just ride it out because of like the information that was being fed and, the bad things that are about it and the different conversations, the different stories that she's heard about people. And when you hear that from someone, Angela, what would you say like to a person that is just going to say, I'm just going to ride it out. Like it's probably not going to be that bad. And, I'll tough it out. It's kind of like that tough girl mentality of like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
beat this.
I
And
can beat this, and I shouldn't take medications and all
yes,
that.
yes.
And there is 25% of women will get through this pretty easily. You know, it's not going to impact them. And, but white knuckling it is not, you know, again, like that means that something's not good and it's not normal. And, you know, she probably does need some help. I think it goes back to that stigma that, you know, the really bad study interpretation. The study was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was the reporting on the interpretation. And then of course, you know, the headlines all over the place, you know, in 2002 and, you know, press conferences and it just, you can't claw back that kind of media attention. Right. And are we ever going to get past it? I don't know. I really don't know. But, you know, in fact, some women that, you know, they take HRT, you see reduction in breast cancer risk, right? Like, how do we get the message out? I don't know. I think it's more of this. It's more, you know, informed and, you know, call Sano and ask it. It'll tell you and it'll give you where the evidence is and you can go look at it and you can hear, you know, read it and get informed. I think
and even not choosing HRT, like there's other things that are out there. You can try rather than white knuckling in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a new drug that just came out, you know, for the symptom of hot flashes and night sweats and cold flashes, because it does exist, right? With the Veoza drug that Astellas has. Right. Like, so what's great is there's more research and there's more drug development. I wish there was a lot more of that, but so it's coming, but you know, there's that, but like, it's back to the onset of the chronic illness risk, the white knuckling it. If you aren't informed, you then are going to be facing things that maybe you could have managed risks before it became a chronic illness, right? So it's not just about the HRT. It's so much more than all of that. And I think that just comes with understanding and getting good information. And that's,
agreed.
You know, we started on that part of the conversation. I think that's a great word to end it, is that women are smart cookies. They're intelligent. Just give them good information and let them make good choices.
Right.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for meeting with us today and having this conversation. It was very informative. It was very good, very fun.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Great to see you too.
How can people get in touch with you or look into sanoLiving if this is something they want to do?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, sanoliving.ai. So again, the AI is very much, and then just click on the individuals and it'll take you there. So, and there's lots of information for you to learn and understand. And then there is Sano. I can even quickly get the phone number.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Call it.
Can you call long distance too? Like internationally?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Let me just find real quick. So the phone number is 709-401-1862.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Give her a call.
And social media?
Yeah, and we're on social media. I think it's sanoLiving on LinkedIn. I think it's sanoLiving on Instagram.
Well, thank you, Angela.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is great.
Thanks for joining us on Breast Intentions. We hope you felt seen, supported, and maybe had a few laughs along the way. Don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review us. Your support keeps the conversation alive. Follow us on social media for more insights, behind-the-scenes fun, and updates on future episodes. Got a topic you want us to dive into? We'd love to hear from you. Remember, life's too short for bad bras, toxic relationships, and kale you don't actually like. So until next time, stay bold and keep your breast intentions exactly where they belong, front and center. Now go crush midlife, or at least today's to-do list. Cheers.